So this is on chapter 14. If you watched the previous video, then you know it was on defining stress, what stress is. These are some sources of stress. So we know what stress is, but what causes your stress? Stress happens when you think you have to figure out everything all at once. Breathe. You're strong. You got this. Just take it day by day. I think that's a good reminder for all of us. So there are essentially two types of stressors. Chronic stressors, which are events that persist over an extended period of time, such as caring for a parent with dementia, long-term unemployment, or imprisonment. There are also acute stresses, which are brief events that sometimes continue to be experienced as overwhelming well after the event has ended, such as falling on an icy sidewalk and breaking your leg. Let's look at some specific types of these stressors. A traumatic event can, of course, be a stressor. Exposure to actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence in one or more of the following ways. Directly experiencing a traumatic event, or witnessing in person the event as it occurred to others, or learning that a traumatic event has occurred to a close family member or close friend. So all of those aspects of traumatic events can be experienced as stress, whether you directly experience it, witness it, hear about it with a close person. That can be considered traumatic and cause stress. We also know that life changes can cause stress. Life changes would include events or situations that require us to make changes in our ongoing lives and require time as we adjust to those changes. Examples of life changes that could create stress might include the death of a close family member, marriage, which is a form of eustress that we discussed in our previous slideshow, is that in other words, marriage can be a positive stress, and moving could also be a positive stressor, but also creates stress, which if it lasts too long can do some damage. And divorce, of course, is a life change that can create some stress. This is a scale you'll see in your book. It's called the Social Readjustment Rating Scale. It consists of 43 life events, as you can see on the left, that require varying degrees of personal readjustment. It's worth noting that some of these events are considered positive, as we discussed in the previous slide. Marriage, childbirth, those things, although stressful, are considered positive changes. So this is a scale psychologists often use to determine how much stress you have in your life. Are you overly stressed? Are you healthy and responding to stress well? How much stress might you have in your life? Again, as I kind of already mentioned, what is the purpose of the SRRS? It provides researchers a simple, easy to administer way of assessing the amount of stress in people's lives. Look at the diagram on the left, a way to measure the amount of stress in a person's life by having that person add up the total life change units associated with each major event listed. And you add up those points for each event that's occurred in the past 12 months, and then your score provides the degree of stress you are experiencing. So if you have a score of 150 to 199, you're in a mild life crisis. 200 to 299, you're in moderate life crisis. And above 300, you're probably in a major life crisis. You have a very high chance of becoming mentally or physically ill or having accidents in the near future because you're under so much stress. Excuse me. And on the next slide, I included a link to that so you can take it in order to assess your stress level. The website also discusses some limitations to the assessment tool. As most assessment tools, it's not perfect, so it does discuss some of those limitations. Unfortunately, I know in YouTube you can't click on this link, so I will include it in another announcement for this week. So if you're interested in assessing your stress level, you're welcome to do so. So daily hassles can also create stress. Daily hassles might include the minor irritations and annoyances that are part of our everyday lives. Rush hour traffic, lost keys, obnoxious coworkers, inclement weather, arguments we have. These things can build on one another and leave us just as stressed as life change events. Um, just for example, some occupation related stressors could include difficult, demanding, or unsafe working conditions, which can lead to job strain, a work situation that combines excessive job demands and workload with little discretion in decision making or job control. So there's high demand, but you feel like you don't have very much control over that. And that can eventually lead to job burnout, which I'm sure we've all heard of job burnout. That is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Excuse me. It is characterized by three dimensions: feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, increased mental distance from one's job, or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job, and reduced professional efficacy. And I bring up this occupation related stressors because you guys are getting ready to go into new careers, and it's important to be aware of when you're having a lot of stress related to the job, and even know the point when you've reached burnout. So keep aware of that as you enter into new careers. Having close relationships that are negative can also be a great source of stress. Negative aspects of close relationships can include conflicts such as disagreements or arguments, not getting enough social support, and lack of reciprocity. In other words, you're putting way more into the relationship than you're getting back. So those are just the majority of examples of stressors, traumatic events, day-to-day hassles, relationship problems, work problems. Those are usually the things that stress us out most. So hopefully in the next PowerPoint, we can discuss how to manage some of those stressors. So be sure and check that out also.